Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome back to another episode of the Love Unleashed podcast with your host, me, Nikki Syme, and of course, the Love Unleashed YouTube show as well. Today's conversation, it's going to be good. So I actually recorded this interview yesterday with the beautiful Jax, but I didn't get around to doing the intro. That's why I'm wearing a different outfit. You'll see. But I was like, you know what? It's all perfect. This is real life. You know, I'm all about keeping it real. So sometimes life gets in the way, right? So today's conversation is all around courage. And Jax shares her story around finding the courage to walk away from a relationship that wasn't necessarily bad, like there wasn't necessarily anything wrong with it, but her soul just knew. Her soul just knew that it wasn't right for her. So having the courage to walk away from that when she still loved her ex, but knew that she needed to for her, like it was her soul calling, to then have the courage to grow through that next period, to then also have the courage to step into a relationship that looked completely different to what she had experienced in the past. We had such a beautiful chat. It was really, really, really awesome. This woman is divine. She is light. She is life. She is just incredible. And I cannot wait for you guys to watch this. So I'm going to stop blabbing on and I'll see you at the end. Hey, gorgeous woman. Thank you so much for being here. I love that we were just having a nice little jam before jumping on, raising the vibe. So for those of you who don't know, this is the beautiful Jax, and I would just love for you to start off by just introducing yourself to the beautiful listeners and viewers, telling us a little bit about who you are, who you be, and why you're here.
I love this question because I'm never prepared because it changes every day. Like today, I am Jax, so full of energy, so full of life. Yesterday, I was Jax, a crumbling mess, confused about life, right? So all I can say is that I'm Jax and I am everyone. I am a mum of two. Recently, when I say recently, a few years ago, divorced. Still always on a journey of continuous self-awareness and self-discovery. I could definitely say I am hungry for more. And when I say more, I mean more of me.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Right? I'm hungry to continue to dive in deep with me. So the result of that is just continuous creation. I live in a life of creation, and I live a life of feeling the nudges and taking action straight away. So I have so many tools in my tool belt. I have so many creations. Like 1 minute I'm creating a children's festival. Next minute I'm writing a book. Next minute I am channeling sound. After that, like there's just everything.
Yeah.
But I guess I get to be an example of everything being perfect. Like, having lived a life of having to choose one thing as a career or a job. Like I also make really great coffee and I make really bad coffee too. Like, depending on the machine or the milk.
Yes.
It's like I get to be everything and everyone. And I love to introduce myself as an example of imperfect perfection.
Amazing. That's probably one of the best intros I've ever had on the show, which is amazing. It's so it's just real, right? Like real people. Like 1 minute we're amazing, the next we're falling in a heap. Like, and it's okay.
Yeah.
It's all okay.
Yeah. This morning, I'm sure I was just like, what is life? Like, who am I? Who am I to be doing any of this? And now at lunchtime, I'm like, I'm the queen of the world.
I love it. And it's so relatable, right? Like we've all been there. We've all kind of had those days where we're like, what the fuck am I doing? Who the fuck do I think I am? And then next minute you're just like.
Next minute you're taking your clothes off, taking a photo in the crown on, and just like, owning it.
That's it. good. So I brought you on today to have a jam about courage. And I know we were going to talk about courage in attracting your beautiful now partner. However, what just kind of came up for me as you were like saying your little piece was that the courage to release the relationship, release the man. And
Yes.
I would love it if you're okay and comfortable, like
Yes.
start there and jam about what it took you to find within yourself to be able to walk away and release that marriage.
Oh my God. Whew, it was one of the toughest. I'm bringing myself back to the conversation that I had with my ex-husband. And like, the thing is that he is an incredible human being. He is such an incredible man. He is an amazing father. There is no wronging in him, with him whatsoever. It's just, honestly, I felt throughout the marriage that I didn't know myself, that I felt very suppressed in who I was. And that resulted in, really not speaking my truth, and it really suffering from it. Like, I'm sure that you'll understand, and then a lot of our listeners here will understand what that feels like, to feel suppressed and not speaking your truth.
Yeah.
And it looked like, every single night having to have a glass of wine, because I felt like I could at least, if I was a little bit tipsy, share a little bit of my truth. And I've always been a massive dreamer. I've always been so imaginative, and always, so for some reason, like, always thinking of infinite possibilities. And my ex-husband was the complete opposite. So it was like he was born as an Eskimo and I was born as an Amazonian. But I tried to live in Eskimo land for a little while because it was what I needed when I met him. Because I was wild Amazonian. I was wild, no structure, partying. Like, I really wasn't, according to society's rules, I wasn't going in a really great direction. I had no foundations. And he was who introduced me to foundations. He was introduced me to structure. He introduced me, he asked me to marry him, and we had a family and all of that stuff. But on the inside, I've always been wild. And it's like caging a wild animal. That's what it felt like. So the catalyst of that, and where the courage really came in, was actually when I experienced 3 close members of my family and friends die in 6 months.
Oh,
I went from funeral to funeral to funeral in 6 months, one of them being my father, one of them being my best friend, and one of them being my uncle. And it was basically that, those moments in between where I started questioning life. And I thought, is this my life now? Is this my life to feel caged? And it wasn't him that caged me. It was just a mismatch. But we created incredibly perfect children. And that's what I look back on hindsight, I'm like, it was so perfect.
But he also, like, not even just that, it's like he provided you what you needed in that moment. It's that whole people come in for a lifetime reason or a season. It's like you needed that in that time, because goodness knows where you could have possibly ended up had that beautiful man not come in and showing you that you can harmonize, right?
Exactly. And honestly, I'm just so grateful for him. So grateful. And the courage really just came from, it was either fear. It came from fear, basically, of living a life that had no fire. And I'm Amazonian. Amazonians need fire. I wanted so desperately for my husband to pick me up and throw me around the room and have wild sex.
Yeah.
But he was an Eskimo, like, we just know, and we're just so different in that way. Yeah. And it was just so perfect. But I just got to this point, like, I always dreamed of meeting a man, and I always, like, intuitively dreamed of my king and being so intimate and so connected, and to reflect on my marriage at the time and look and knowing how precious life is, especially watching my father pass away, and just going, like, I actually can't do this. it got, I could imagine if I kept going down that path and not having said anything and stayed in the marriage because they were the rules, I
Yeah.
would have been on antidepressants. I would have been an alcoholic just because it's a coping to
Yeah.
cope with the
Numbing,
suppression.
right? Mm.
So yeah, that's where it came from. The courage was actually fear from living life, the rest of my life, like suppressed.
And that's where death can be a really beautiful catalyst. Death was a catalyst for my massive shift in my life at the age of 25.
Mm,
It's like that trigger of, okay, this life is so precious. You don't know when it's going to be up, right? Like it could happen tomorrow. And it's
yeah.
like, are you actually living a life that makes you feel fulfilled and that you're on your deathbed and you're like, fuck yeah, I gave it my all. Like that was one hell of a party, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And that's a fear as well, like being on the deathbed and looking and babe, I watched my father, you know, his big dreams were to travel around Australia, and he got sick before he could even do any of that. Like he died at 57. And so he had played by the rules. He had you know, a house and car, superannuation. He did all the things to protect himself before pension, but he never made the pension.
Mm,
And I was like, I don't care about that anymore. I just want to be free in every moment of my life.
yes, the freedom.
Mm,
Beautiful.
freedom of self.
Yes. And just freedom to be able to make the decisions that feel aligned, right?
Yep,
Without feeling
totally.
like you're contained.
Yep,
So
yep.
much in society is like, you know, grow up, go to school, get the degree, get the job, get the house with the picket fence and the 3.2
Mm,
kids and, you know, save up. And then it's like, it doesn't have to be that way.
yep,
And especially like relationships, I think there's a lot of people that get stuck in a relationship thinking that, oh, I'm married and I have to be in this. And even when it's fucking killing them inside and they are
yes.
self-medicating and numbing themselves to avoid,
Drinking and
yeah, without going, well, actually, we get to have it all. And if it
yep,
doesn't feel good anymore, I'm
yep,
allowed to remove myself from that situation.
yep, totally.
So I would love for you now to kind of talk about, because what we were speaking about before we jumped on in regards to the courage then took to actually enter into something new with a beautiful man and how you manifested that. And I'm assuming there was times where you had to say a fuck no to allow the fuck yes and all of that stuff. So if you could tell us a little bit about that journey, that would be amazing.
Yes. So after I separated from my ex-husband, my world fell apart. Like it just unraveled. It was like it was basically when I said yes to myself in terms of taking myself out of an equation that was suppressing me. The universe took that as oh, she's ready. But my human wasn't ready.
Yeah.
I literally ended up losing everything in terms of all of my material wealth. I was like on the cusp of bankruptcy. I was homeless. It was the most excruciating experience for my ego ever.
Mm,
And it tore me down to my bare minimum, which was my raw realness that I never knew was there.
mm.
So
Fuck, that must have been scary and
it was scary because I was so attached to identities, and my identity back at the time was this business owner, the restaurateur. You know, I had one of the most successful restaurants in Australia of its kind. And I was so attached to the identity of that, I
mm,
didn't even know who I was. But my purpose here on earth has always been bigger than just being a restaurateur. But I didn't know that at the time. And so after that, when I lost everything and I really got to see who my friends were, I really got to see who I was. I got to see everything so raw. And I went back into nature and I started to study the universal laws because I had nothing else going for me. I had nothing else going for me. And what I really look back on it, and I'm so grateful for all of it, because I needed to be who I am today. I really needed to go to those dark places.
mm,
So that journey between my separating from my ex-husband and meeting my gorgeous soulmate was my time. It was
mm,
time for me to figure out what kind of queen I am,
mm,
because I was so far from functioning as a queen. I was so far because I didn't know who I was. I was operating by rules that didn't fit me. I
mm.
was a mess. and I was only ever going to attract a mess.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
I did. In which I did. I dated a few guys in between, and it was just like messy.
Yeah.
And so that's all I was just attracting myself. And so when I really did honor myself and just start focusing on my inner work and me feeling free within myself and knowing who I am and just really connecting with nature again. And it was just such an organic progression. I was really, really, really ready for him because I didn't need him.
Yes. Yes.
Right. I got to this point where I was like, yeah, I'm actually really great.
Yeah.
And that's when he appeared. And he appeared in the form of someone I friend zoned. Like I friend zoned him the first moment I met him because I friend zoned him before. Like when I met him, I really decided, not because of him, but because of the place that I was within myself and no longer needing a man. I was like, I basically said to him when we first started chatting, like, I just want to let you know, I'm actually not looking to date anyone, but I'd like to be friends. And of course, he was thrilled because he was in the same boat. And then there was no conversation around it. It just happened. We're just soulmates. Like we just know it, you know? And it was beautiful. It has been, and it still is the most beautiful journey ever together. It's 3 years nearly now. That's 3 years ago. And I did call him in. I called him in, and he was not who I thought he was going to be.
Yeah.
Right? It's the most interesting thing, but he is exactly how I expected him to feel.
Yeah.
Being with him is exactly how I expected it to feel, and I was calling forth the feeling. Being with him was home, but physically he was not at all what I thought. I was like, he's a dark, he's got dark skin like me, and I was a Caucasian lover for 34 years. I was only Caucasian men.
Oh.
Yes. I was like, even a month before I met. Yeah, I know. Even a month before I met him, I had said to one of my girlfriends who was dating a really dark-skinned African man. And those who are listening, I am actually Filipino, so I'm actually got dark skin. So I'm not. It's just my taste because I grew up in a Caucasian like community. I was attracted to Caucasian men, and so I said to my friend, "Yeah, and I'm just not attracted to colored men, like not at all." A month before I met my partner, who is a very colored man.
We'll
And
see about that.
I know. And so the thing is that even that in itself was a journey of courage because my ego was so loud when I first started seeing him. And I was like, number one, he's an Uber driver. Number two, he's not at all what I thought. Like I wanted this successful entrepreneur and, all of that stuff, but he felt so good.
Yes.
And so what was it that I needed to surrender? And I didn't want to surrender being around someone who felt like my best friend. Like I didn't want to do that. So it took a lot of courage for me to actually really see that and see that it was my ego that was attached to his image and attached to his job, and really see the truth, which was that he felt great and he loved me. He loves me.
Yes, and I love that you're speaking into that because it was exactly the same for Gary and I. I had ego around Gary's name. And Gary's a meat worker, and I'm like, well, he cuts up animals for a living, and he was like tall and skinny, and I'm like, I like big men, like masculine men, and it was all of this stuff. But for me, it was the same thing. The moment I met him and made eye contact with him, my whole body just went.
Yep.
And it was like, oh fuck, here we go, and it was instant safety, instant felt like home.
Yep.
It's like triggering to fuckery, but it was like, okay, because then I had another guy that came into my space who was what I would usually go for. He was like tempting me, and the universe is going, okay, what are you going to choose here? I felt unsafe and erratic and all over the place with that other guy. And I felt so safe. And at the end, it came down to choosing the courage to not go for what I have always done in the past, and the courage to actually step into something that was real.
That your body was telling you was real. Like that safety is such a big deal. It's such a big deal. Like and I actually use that as my compass now in any relationship, any friendship, any introduction. I use that safety as a compass.
Yes.
And I know that when I'm with someone and conversation is fluent, I don't have to feel like I'm out of, like, you know, that feeling of just trying too hard.
Yeah. Or
Or it
being
not
judged, or like you can't
yeah.
be yourself fully.
Yeah. And it was because I felt that with my partner now, the safety of just literally being myself. Like, oh my God, it's the best decision ever to go down that road of like trusting my intuition and trusting my courage. And interestingly, I actually, because I was so torn about this, I really was so torn because I had dated a lot of guys and I'm thinking, was this last? Is this just last? You know, but it just felt so deep. And I did a meditation, and in my meditation, my dad came through, who had passed, and I had never seen him. Like I felt his presence, but in my meditation, he was like standing right in front of me, like he was just right there, and he was nodding his head. And I was like,
Give me goosebumps.
right. And I was crying and I thought, oh my God, really? Is this the one? And of course it's the one, because I called him in. I freaking called him in.
I'm asking for it. Okay,
He's asking, then he
gotta receive it. Like,
I know. And that's what we do. We call them in, and then our egos like plays tricks on us. And then, my God, no, it actually is. I do deserve this. And that was a big thing. Deserving. Deserving peace. Yeah.
Absolutely. So now, like, you're in this incredible relationship. So how does courage kind of show up for you on a daily basis in your relationship?
Well, in so many ways, like when we, especially me being me, like I'm such an independent, like I'm so creative and he's just so grounded and humble. We're a great yin and yang match.
Yeah, the
But
feminine.
courage, when you ask that question, what comes up for me is the courage to love him how he is. And that's not in a way that it's not a hard thing to do. So here's an example. There's always our soulmates, our partners, relationships are always a reflection of ourselves or what we need to really work on. And one thing that's come up in the past, not anymore because I've really worked through this for myself, is that he loves his family so much. And he loves his brothers and he loves to spend time with them, and he really enjoys that. Now, I'm from a family that doesn't do that. I'm from a family that's disjointed, and we just don't even see each other or don't even talk, and that's just the way it is. So if I was to like one night make dinner and like agree that it was at 6:00, and then he messages or calls and said I'll be there like maybe a couple of hours later because I'm just with my brothers, I used to get really cross. I used to take it so personally. And I used to be like, oh, he cares about them more than me. And I used to have that conversation in my head. Where courage comes in is to be beyond that, to actually to know the truth, and to really the courage to actually go to the truth, which is, number one, he is the most loving, extraordinary person I've ever met, and he would never ever do anything to hurt me. And that to celebrate that he loves his family so much, and know that when he's with me, he's with me. He doesn't have his phone, he's with me. And I know that when he's with them, he's with them. It's just who he is. And so it took a lot of courage for me as as a woman to really treat my king as a king and trust him as a king. And not play in those realms of like which I used to, you know, it's like, you don't care about me, fine, you do what you want, like, make a big, exactly. And so it's just been such a beautiful journey of like discovering that as well, all of these deep layers of trauma that lives there that we can either ignite or diffuse.
Yeah. So it's like the courage to not take things personally, and also have that radical self-responsibility, right?
The courage to love unconditionally yourself and your lover.
Fuck yeah.
Your soulmate. It's a journey. It never, and just because it's your soulmate, things aren't good. Like, it doesn't mean like everything is solved in the world at all. You're still going to go through life
and sunshine and roses every day. Like, I get
exactly
fucked by this guy, right? Like every day, most days.
Exactly. Always to the better version of yourself, which is every day. There's always a better version of yourself. And to trust and know that. And I know there's a lot of people that meet their partners and then they get really complacent. It's like, we got to continue to grow. And, you know, like yourself, you and your partner just went away and you treated yourselves, and that needs to happen. Right? You need to like
earlier
honor each other.
And even earlier in the year, we were in a really clunky place because we weren't paying attention to our relationship. So we decided as a team to go and get support with that. That's the best thing we could have ever done, because it brought us, we were going like this and it's brought us back together, and our relationship is thriving now, like best it's ever been. And that's the thing, is like, people, like you said, have that belief or that thing running where it's like, okay, I'm in a relationship now, I don't need to do anything, I've got my man or I've got my lady and that's it, it's just easy. It's like, no, relationships take effort.
And it's a relationship with yourself. Right? It's the dialogue, because you've got to understand, like, when there's another person in your life that is so like someone so close to you, our past dialogue is always operating, and we've got to have the courage to actually create new dialogue and not listen to the past dialogue, because that's how people break up so easily, or they just give up on things so easily, because it's like past dialogues taking over, like taking things personally. You know, read the 4 agreements. Everyone needs to read the 4 agreements. Like,
okay, cool.
That's a powerful, like, law book. There's 4 agreements. It's great for relationships.
Awesome. So for those of those who are listening and are like, I want more courage, but I don't know how to do it, or where do we even get started? Do you have any advice for them to kind of start, like, making that transition into leaning more into love and courage and facing off with that stuff?
Courage isn't an emotion. Courage is an action. Courage is making decisions. And okay, so what, I guess the best thing that, you know, something that I could recommend now is really like getting clear on something that we don't do is a lot of, is getting clear on what we want. So getting clear on the next 12 months, getting clear. And if meeting your soulmate or meeting a partner or just dating more is part of your next year, make decisions that support that, as opposed to not. As opposed to, you know, if it is to actually meet more people and you're used to isolating yourself, the courage is to actually honor your vision of actually meeting more people and making those decisions and pivoting, right? When you usually would be asked out to something and then you usually would say no, pivot and choose different because, you know, like, it's just really sometimes not thinking is the best thing to do. Right? Sometimes just making a decision is just, you know, and surrounding yourself with a community of people who really cheer you on. That's been such a big thing for me, is like really finding people who actually cheer me on, and community that cheer me on in my decisions and not make me feel wrong, or not actually understand if I was to feel fear and not make me feel foolish about it, but actually really just support my wisdom, you know, and support my existence, and, you know, things like that. So courage is an action. Courage is just doing something that you wouldn't usually do. But the reality is, if you don't, you'll get the same result that you don't want. That's just the truth. That's just universal law.
Nothing changes, right?
Nothing changes.
And I think a lot of things too is like, especially for my listeners and my audience, is like, there's a lot of belief out there that we have to be a certain way or do certain things in order to be loved. And, you know, you see it in like some marketing and stuff from other love coaches out there. It's all about, you know, text in this one word to get them to like you, and dress this way, or if you want to get them back, say this, and it drives me nuts. I think for me around courage and attracting love is finding the courage to be yourself.
Totally.
Really, like, just authentically be in your truth. Call in love from that space, because from that space there's a foundation there for a relationship to actually thrive, not hiding behind these masks.
And, you know, I'm such a believer in, and I'll say this in everything that I do, is connecting with a mentor.
Yeah.
Honestly, if radical shift is what you're like looking for
Mhm.
and you're really wanting to experience with support, supported radical shifts are
Changed my
change,
life.
same, life changing, and
Yeah.
it's radical. And so, you know, reaching out to Nikki and like getting the support and surrounding yourself with other women that are in the same boat and just supporting each other, that
Mm.
causes so much radical shift as opposed to feeling like you've got to do it on your own.
Yes. And if you're in Brisbane, coming to Conscious Leaders, right? Like
Oh my God, yes.
is like
That's
next
like radical shifts. Like we've witnessed radical shifts.
like from people who are like walking in the door, bawling their eyes out because they're so terrified of being there, who are now on the support team, who feel like they're finally home and have the
Home.
community. It's like, oh,
Mm,
yes, so
exactly.
good. All right, beautiful woman. Thank you so much for being here. For those who are listening and watching that want to reach out and connect with you, how can they do that?
Well, that's interesting. It's just Facebook.
Yep.
I'm just like a Facebook warrior. Like I love, yeah, I'm not complicated. I do have a website, but that's just, you know, just go to my Facebook page and contact me. And yeah, I've got some really great events coming up, you know, sound healing, sound activations. I look like a gangster, but I'm a bit of a spiritual, like woo-woo human too. Like I'm a little bit of everything, right? From the beginning of my introduction, I'm a little bit of everything, but I do have, like, I have a massive mission on my heart, which is to, you know, really be a catalyst of and an example of what freedom looks like and feels like within self.
Mm. Oh, fuck yes.
Mm.
Freedom of self. So
Freedom
beautiful.
of self.
Amazing. Well, I will definitely drop your information in the show notes as well. So anyone who's watching, listening, please connect with this gorgeous woman. She's got Awaken Retreat in March and
February.
February, sorry.
Yeah,
And
and it's
also,
half full. I'm so excited. It's going to be next level, transcendent, amazing.
fuck. And
Oh.
is it Life Force? The Life Force? Unleash the
Awaken 2.0. Brisbane, we've got Awaken 2.0 on the 15th of December. It's an evening. It's an incredible experience where you just come relax and allow me to awaken DNA, money codes, all of the fun stuff. It's very woo-woo, but it's really fun.
Yeah.
And on the 19th of December, it's the Gold Coast. So really transformational experience. It's but it's a little bit left of center, and it's for those who really have the courage to try something very different.
Courage to try something different.
Courage.
Courage. All right, beautiful woman.
Thank
I'm
you
sending you
so
so much
much.
love. So grateful to have you on, and
Thanks,
I'll be talking
Nikki.
to
I'll
you.
see you soon. Love you.
I love you.
Bye.
Hey, so what did you think? Oh my God, isn't she just magic? And I love that she's just real. She's just raw. There's no bullshit, right? It's just exactly how it is. And that's why I think that her and mine and her soul just were like, yep, straight up. So I really hope that you got a lot out of that. And yeah, like courage, right? It's a big one. It's a big one. And stepping into courage can feel really scary at times. But I'm a firm believer that it's in those times when we're feeling afraid and then we do it anyway, that's when the biggest breakthroughs happen, you know, and the biggest reward also happens as well. So really building that courage and trusting yourself, and it all comes back to this, right? Like you'll be noticing a theme with all these conversations. It really comes back to self-trust, really comes back to listening to what's going on inside of us and the nudges and the soul nudges, you know, where we're being directed, we're constantly being supported and led in some kind of way, and building that self-trust and that self-ownership to then be able to step powerfully into our highest versions of ourselves and be confident and courageous and do the things that feel good for us in this lifetime, because, well, life's short, right? And it's for living and it's yours, and you get to live it in whatever way that feels good for you. So if you got anything out of this, I would love for you to please hit that subscribe button and share this with your friends, anyone that you think may need to hear this message right now. Maybe you know a girlfriend who's struggling with a decision to leave a partner, or someone who's just like struggling with courage to go on dates or step into that arena. Please share that with them. Please share this with them. It's really important that these conversations start getting out into the world so that we can really shift the way that humans show up in this world. It's about building community and trust and love and just a better world, right? That's what it's all about. And if you would like to connect with Jax as well, there is all the information in the show notes. Make sure you head over and join me on Facebook as well, the Love Unleashed group. Everything that you need to know is in the show notes, and Instagram, Facebook, all the places. And until next time, just remembering that you are loved, you are lovable, you are loved, and you're courageous. You really are. You've got it in you. So now you get to choose. Sending you so much love, and I'll see you very soon. Mwah! Bye.